Welcome to the Vibrant Life podcast. I'm Sarah Nolan, a burnout prevention and energetic management consultant, and I help my clients to remove blocks that restrict their performance, fulfillment, and happiness. And I'm here today with Preston Rahn, who is the holistic high-ticket sales trainer who teaches how to inspire and enroll clients without pressure or manipulation with his energetics of sales, right? Did I get that right?
Got it.
Program. So I'm super excited to have you here, Preston. What's really interesting, we were just talking and we were just saying we should be recording this because we talked about so many interesting things. But you guys, Preston has sold high ticket programs for Deepak Chopra, Sharon Lechter, who's the CEO of the Rich Dad Poor Dad, or she was the CEO of the Rich Dad Poor Dad Foundation, and Ted McGrath. And he now helps holistic practitioners to sell their high ticket programs as well. And we were talking earlier about how Preston's dad had prostate cancer and how he helped his dad overcome that using the same techniques that he uses with his clients to overcome some of the energetic blocks that they have in their businesses. So Preston, thank you so much for joining us today. And can you tell us how all of this, like, how did you get into the energetic aspect of business, and like what happened, with your dad and how you discovered all of that?
Awesome. Well, thanks, Sarah, for having me here. It's a pleasure to be here. And it really all started like when I was a little kid. I was kind of like the life coach of my family, and I didn't even realize it. So it's one of those things that, you're blessed with this gift and you don't realize it until later on in life. Mm-hmm. So, and I did grow up watching my mom die from cancer. So this is one of the reasons why I also got into the health aspect of it as well, is, like, why did that happen? So I had that whole thing growing up. And then, my dad did have prostate cancer, and I was telling him, like, Dad, you gotta, go on a vegan diet, and you gotta stop eating all the sugar and the cookies and the ice cream and, all that stuff, and change, your doctors say you need a lifestyle change. And he's like, what doctors, say that stuff, like what, go show me some doctors that, that tell about how to not use chemotherapy and, like, you're not a doctor, Preston. Like, why should I listen to you? And I'm like, Dad, I'm a member of the Holistic Chamber of Commerce. Like all these people that I'm around all the time, they preach being vegan and, having a healthy lifestyle. And I'm like, and I remember this cartoon that I saw. There's a line of people on one side to get medications, and then there's a sign on the other side, which is like, natural, health, and there's nobody there. So that's the kind of thing, is like, we're conditioned to, take the pill, right? The magic pill, the chemotherapy. And so I started studying this stuff. I was like, all right, Dad, I'm going to find some stuff. So I go to YouTube and I'm searching Google, and I came across a few guys like Dr. Joe Dispenza, Dr. Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden, and I started like really devouring a lot of the stuff that they do. I've got books all over the place. And so I was listening to like Dr. Bruce Lipton on his biology of belief. And this is really where the foundation of all this came from, was, and Joe Dispenza, he teaches a lot of this stuff, but the biology of belief is all about your, inner, like I call it your inner game. Mm-hmm. It's like the cells and how your cells react, and they're either on or off, or on or off, open or closed, right? It's like a door. The door can't be closed and open at the same time. It's either closed or it's open. So, it's like you're either going right or you're going left. So you can't be going both directions at the same time. So I started studying a lot of this stuff on how the cells work. And there's a thing, like they call it the field. And the field is, Einstein says the field is what governs all matter. And so and these are the differences between things like Newtonian physics and quantum physics. And Newtonian physics is they treat the matter, and the quantum physics side says that the field is the thing that changes the matter, right? And so our field is our brain, but there's also a collective field, which is like society and what everybody believes. Like my dad, like, oh yeah, like you're gonna tell me something, that a doctor says this, but I'm supposed to believe you, right? So, but that's the whole thing is, right? Like the doctors, everybody is programmed to believe that what the doctors say is true. But the funny thing is my dad's was saying, well, this doctor's telling me one thing, and this doctor is going against him and saying this. And so I'm seeing this tug of war going on. And I'm like, Dad, like, do you realize like these guys don't know what they're talking about? They're just making stuff up. So I started coming across some of this stuff too. There's articles in there that said things like there are actually a lot of doctors that make up the disease of cancer. Like they diagnose cancer in people that don't even have it so that they get chemo treatment so they can make money. Yeah. And I was like, so, and then, these guys are saying things like, well, you don't really need cancer or chemo to treat the cancer. All you have to do is think differently, have a different environment, So I'm like, Dad, like get rid of the ice cream and get rid of the cookies and change your diet. Like even your doctors say that. So listen to your doctors when they say change your lifestyle. Like you just eating less of the stuff isn't changing your lifestyle. Like cut it out. So I started studying all this stuff for my father. And then I started realizing that, this stuff could be applied to sales because it's kind of what I already teach, like,
right.
Like we were talking earlier, like I've been to Sedona and I've studied things like sacred geometry. And, one of the things that in sales that I also teach is like before you go into a sales presentation, your mindset is a real big, thing for the call. Like a lot of times, in sales meetings, I hear people say things like, well, my clients don't have any money, or no one's ever buying, or oh, I'm just getting on these calls and, it's just a waste of time. And I'm like, if that's the way you think, then that's what you're going to see, So how you perceive the world is how it's going to show up to you. So that's where our field comes in. So for instance, if you're believing that even if the doctors say that you're diagnosed with cancer, you don't have to believe that. Just because a doctor says it, doesn't mean that it's true. And even if it is true that they can show you that there's cancer, I always just say, I was talking with somebody last night at our Christmas party, and I was like, I always ask this question, what's the opposite of that? Like somebody comes up to you like, how you feeling? And they're like, oh, I'm sick. I'm like, well, what's the opposite of that? I'm healthy. I'm like, there you go. Focus on that. Right. So in the sales presentation, people can come in and then it's like, oh, well, these people don't have money. Well, what's the opposite of that? People do have money. So I'm like, great. And I have this little book, like this journal that I do. And I have stuff written down in there. And so in my journal, I have these little notes in there all about that stuff. Like if someone's on the phone call with me, I believe that they have the money. I believe that they can find it. Like if it's a big enough problem for them to go through a presentation, like a webinar or a video, and then schedule a call with me or fill out a form and then talk to me for an hour about, their challenges and their problems. And then at the very end, I'm like, well, here's the solution to your problem. And they go, well, I can't afford it. At that point, it's like, now I am their trusted advisor. How can I, as their trusted advisor, now let them go back to that life that they just said that they don't want? So I have to believe that if I have the solution and if it's really a big enough deal for them, they'll find the money. They'll get it, right? Like they'll take action to do something. So, when people have, when the desire to solve that problem is greater than the perceived value of the money, then they'll take action of it, right? If the value of the money is higher, then they're going to always say, well, it's too much and I don't have that, but it's in the brain.
I have an interesting example of being on the other end of the call, like being the client on a call like that. And it was my first big investment. It was a $10,000 investment. And I was pretty sure I wanted to do it ahead of time, but it was one of those things where I didn't really have the money for it at the time. But when I heard about the offer, it was just grounded in even more for me. Like, I absolutely need to do this. And I would not allow myself to say, I don't have the money. It like almost came into my mind, but I'm like, nope, can't even go there. So what I told him was, I'm going to find the money. I'll figure it out. And he was like, all right, well, when do you think you'll have the money by? I'm like, give me 3 days. By the next day, I had the money. It was like, oh, it was right here the whole time. I just didn't realize that because I had kind of the story that I didn't have the money, but because I didn't allow myself to go there, my brain helped me to like figure out where the money was.
And that's the energetics of sales right there, right?
Yeah.
So, and I always tell that to people too. I say, go ahead, think about it. Here's the thing is like, if you really believe that this is the thing that can help you, the money will find you.
Right.
And the thing is like, we're always blocking the things that can help us because of our perception, our thought process, which is really like given to us. It's something that we learned. So if we can learn it and we're the ones that learned it, then we can unlearn it and learn something new. So, I don't know if this was in this call or our last call, but if you're always going left, you can't go left and right at the same time, right? Like if the door's shut, it's either shut or open, right? So it's one or the other, right? So that's the belief system, right? Like if it's always like, well, I grew up this way, or my parents were raised this way, right? This is the family that I grew up in, right? Like I was abused or whatever. So this is how I am. But no, you can change that, right? Like that's your perception and your belief system. And those are the things too. Like you can change, your thoughts, and you can change your feelings and emotion. Let's see, Joe Dispenza says that I have my notes on Joe Dispenza here, and he says, thoughts are the language of the brain and feelings are the language of the body.
Right.
And how you think and how you feel create a state of being. So emotionally embrace the emotion, like joy. And he's like, that's what creates your personality, and your personality is your personal reality. But that's the inner game and the outer game, right? So your personality is from you within, and how you show up to the world is based on your personality and your belief systems. And that's what you're going to experience, right? So if everything's like, oh my God, this is so bad, well, guess what? You're going to start experiencing and see things that are bad.
I love that you brought up personality, because so many people feel like you're born with your personality, you will die with that same personality. And I don't know about you, but I have seen that is just not the case. I mean, I used to be really into taking personality tests. And if you look at my personality tests, 10 years ago versus, today or a year ago or 5 years ago, it's completely different. And it's just because of kind of like what you're talking about. Have you seen that with your clients and with yourself as well?
Yeah. Well, I mean, every day you wake up, that's the thing is like, we have the ability to, every day is a new day, right? But what do most people do? They wake up, they do the same thing. They do routine, the same thing. They go to the bathroom, they make their coffee, they do this, they do that. And it's all on autopilot. And if you're living your life on autopilot, like what's changing? Nothing. So, that's why, I guess my ex didn't like it, but, I was like, oh, well, today I like this. And, and then like, she'd be like, oh, do you like this? I'm like, well, today I don't. Well, I thought you liked it. Well, I changed my mind. Right.
Oh my gosh. That reminds me of my 7-year-old son. Like I cannot make that kid a meal.
That's the thing is I like variety. I like things that be different. And like when things are the same, it becomes bland and it becomes repetitious and it becomes boring. And you know what? Life isn't about being boring. And when it's boring, just like in your sales process, just like in your sales copy, if it's boring, people are going to tune out. If I'm just up there and giving a presentation, like I could give you the steps, right? I can be like, here's the 10 steps. Step 1 is this. Step 2 is this. After like the third or fourth time, you're going to start kind of nodding off because it's so repetitious and boring. But if I have a story behind it and I tell you, you know, like how I got into, you know, doing these things, like studying, you know, quantum physics and studying these guys and, you know, doing things for my father, it becomes more interesting, right? That's why we're doing an interview here. It's not just like, hey, Preston, tell me your, you know, 10 steps on how to do the sales process. Okay, step 1 is this, steps 2 is this. But no, it's like, well, how did, like, I want to know the story behind the story. Like, how did you come up with those things? And how did you, you know, come up with the energetics of sales, you know? And it's an interesting thing. And that's, you know, colorful and
exactly,
and vibrant. And that's what life's all about. You know, it's about finding the beauty. Like I like to go out for walks. I live in Boca Raton, Florida, and it's beautiful. I go out and I go on gratitude walks. And my gratitude walks are awesome because I pay attention to like such little things. And there's so many things that you can see when you slow down and you look at things. So like one of the things I like to do is focus on abundance. Like, and I want you guys to do this too. Go on a gratitude walk, go outside. I like to do them in the morning. You can do them anytime you want, but just start looking around like an abundance. So like there's a building over there. There's an abundance of windows in the building, and there's abundance of little squares in there, and there's abundance of bricks. And then you look at the ground and there's abundance of tiles, and you look at grass, there's abundance of leaves and blades of grass. And then even into the dirt, there's abundance of little pieces of dirt. And there's, you know, like I started looking down at the dirt. You know how many snails that I've saved? I'm the snail whisperer. Like I look around and these giant snails, like people walk by and squish them when it gets raining out here, but nobody knows them because they're looking up and they're all in their brain. You know, get out of your brain. This is what I tell people: get out of your brain and get into your heart.
yeah,
That's the thing too that happens in the sales process. Like when I ask you to make it, like you were just saying, hey, I want to make a decision. I want you to make a decision on this $10,000 package. You know what you're doing is your logic comes in. Your heart might go, oh, I know I want this, right? That's what you said. But then your head goes, well, $10,000, I can go buy, you know, a car. It's a down payment on, you know, a house. You know, like there's a lot of things I can do with $10,000. But then you're like, I know I need this. So you're actually having a conversation between your head and your heart. Your prospects are having a conversation, whether it's 2,000, 5,000, 10,000. I sold 25, 50, 100, $200,000 packages. You know what it's like the first time I asked someone to invest in a $100,000 package? I was like, who the heck is going to invest in a $100,000 package? But I was like, I don't know. These guys selling it, and they want me to help sell it. So that's my job, you know. But I also learned too, there's a buyer at every level, right? So there's a lot of people, especially holistic people, they have a fear of charging what they're worth. You know, they think, oh, like, I think you said this earlier, oh, this is God's work. And, you know, but, you know, we're not supposed to struggle, and it's okay to ask for the sale. In fact, a lot of times people come to me, like holistic trainers, they're like, I'm a spiritual advisor. Like, how do I charge $100,000? And that's just your high thing. Here's the thing. You don't have to have, you know, you don't have to have somebody invest into it. You can just say it's psychology, right? So if I go, hey, I've got, you know, 3 packages, my private one-on-one for a year, it's $10,000 a month, or you can do a one-time payment of $100,000. And people are like, whoa, it's like, that's way too much for me. And I say, well, great. I got a $30,000 package. It's a $25K one-time investment, or you can do $2,500 a month. Now, how does that feel? People are like, that's probably a lot more doable. I think I can do $2,500 a month versus, but you heard $100,000 and $10,000 up front.
And some people will want that. You know, some people will value the $100,000 thing more than the $2,500,000.
And that's where I was going with that. Think about it.
Right.
Even if nobody ever invests into your $100,000 package, just by you saying it, it's out there. But an accident might happen, and somebody might go, okay, like that was literally one of the first times that I sold a $100,000 package. In my brain, I was like, there's no way anybody's going to invest into this. Like, what am I doing here offering these stupid $100,000 packages? But then I would just like, the investment's only $100,000. I just shut my mouth. And then the next thing that came out was, okay, I think I can do that. How do we get started? And I was like, what? But that's the thing. An accident can happen and somebody does
Right.
that. But if you never offer it, you're always at a no. If you don't ask, you're always at a no.
Yeah. I think that's really encouraging for especially some of the holistic people because, first of all, like you said, a lot of people feel like, they're maybe not even supposed to charge, or they're only supposed to charge, they have to make it affordable so everybody can do it. But there are certain people who will look at, a $99.97 package and say, that's ridiculous. I'm in so much pain right now that won't even touch what's going on with me. And for
Or it's
these
like you
holistic people,
get what you paid for, right? So they're thinking
right.
like, oh, well, I was expecting this to be a lot more expensive than $9.97, but that's not the help that they are really looking for.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So how did your dad end up using any of this stuff for his process? Or, I mean, he must have at least listened to some of, like, on some level, listened to it
Oh
and
yeah,
kind of,
I was over and over and over. It's funny. Like I remember I went to his house and there was like cookies and ice cream and like there was one little bag of like salad. So I got the sticky notes out and I wrote on there, Dad, no. And I put it on every single tub of ice cream. I put it on every box of cookies he had. And I just kept asking every time we'd go out to like, he'd be like, hey, you want to go out to breakfast? I'm like, great. I'm like, are you going to get some fruit? And he's like, no, I'm going to get the omelet. I was like, Dad, I think you should get the fruit. And then he'd be like, you get mad at me. Like, you always have to like, tell me it's my life. Da, da, da. I was like, all right. But, and then like my mom, she's like, just, don't be nagging him. He doesn't want us to nag him. I'm like, when he's not here, you're going to be telling me, I wish we nagged him a little bit more.
mm-hmm.
So I was like, I'm not going to listen to them tell me no. In fact, that's a great thing that I'm going to teach you right now is if you don't hear the word no, it doesn't exist. So, when you're doing a sales process, like my dad just kept saying, Preston, stop, nagging me on this stuff. Like, no, right? Like, no. But I didn't hear that. I just said, oh, that means that he needs more of it. He needs to hear it more.
Yeah.
So same thing in the sales process when, somebody is like, well, I can't afford it. No, most people are going to be like, okay, well, like, I'll just follow up with you. Then no, you dig on it. Like, I don't hear a no. I just hear, how can I invest into this? This isn't the right thing. I'm not giving you enough. So I'd say,
right.
well, let's, okay, I hear you. I understand like what, what does that mean? Can we talk about it? Like, what do you mean by that? Tell me a little bit more. What does it mean? Like, what don't you like about this? Or what are you saying no to? Like, is it me? Is it the price? Is it my package?
Right.
Do you not believe that I can, there's so many levels to it. And then here's another cool thing too, is it's like, okay, well, what's the cost of not doing this? What's the cost of inaction? Like my father's, it's death, right? Like if he doesn't take action and do something, like he could potentially die. So as a salesperson and a holistic salesperson, that's what I want you to think about as well, is you're there to save their life. If they walk away from you and you just let them say, no, that's too expensive. And I'm not telling you to pressure them or push them, but there's a difference between that and challenging somebody because, I'm like, I can, be soft and I can be like, hey, let me tell you something. Or I can be really aggressive and be like, oh, well, no, you got to get into this program now. Oh, like we're ending this and da-da-da, and you got it. But I can just be very soft with it. And I can just say, well, I hear what you're saying. I understand. I've had a lot of clients that say that as well. A lot of times they just say that up front because their brain's programmed to say no.
Right.
So what are you, exactly saying no to? Can we talk about that? And then have a conversation with it. Then you can be like, well, look, what's the cost of inaction? I call it your COI. Like there's ROI, like your return on investment, and your COI is your cost of inaction. So what's it costing you to not do this now? Okay, it's going to cost you some money, but how much time have you done, been trying to figure this out? Like a lot of times people are like, oh, I've been trying to do this for 4 years. It's like, well, I have a solution that can help you right here for a few bucks. Like what, how much do you want to have this conversation in 12 months? You might be dead in 12 months. Like there's no tomorrow, right? Like you could get hit by a bus.
You know,
You
I
don't know what's
love
going
that you mention the fact that, holistic people really are saving lives, whether they're saving lives because of physical health or because of mental and emotional health, like saving their kids and their marriages and stuff like that. And a lot of people have this belief that, you can only sell high ticket if you're helping somebody to like make more money. If you're
right.
helping somebody to increase their sales or improve their marketing, or they're going to
Yeah, that's
get like
totally
a
not true.
financial ROI.
I got
But
this one lady. She's got I was showing her this one, the optimal wellness person. I was showing her how to do $150,000 package. She wanted to sell
yeah,
for 50,000. I was like, your audience is affluent people. I was like, these are doctors and lawyers. Like, think about what you just said, the
hmm
family, and like these are the type of people that like they can afford that stuff. And again, you don't put that out there, you're never gonna know. You
right.
got to test the waters.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like this is one of those moments where, if you're watching or listening right now and you are a holistic practitioner or a doctor or, somebody who's helping people holistically, just let that sink in, that what you are doing is one of the most valuable things on the planet. And you really can't put a cap on the price for that.
Well, you
The,
can, and that's what most people do. They cap
right.
themselves.
Yeah. Yes, you can technically do that, but it's not going to
They
be
cap
accurate.
themselves and they say, well, I'll
Right.
charge $50 an hour, $100 an hour, and I'll
Right.
do, 5 sessions and I'll charge $500. And I'm like, well, why not charge a package for 5 or 10 grand? Wouldn't
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
make more sense?
And the fact that the investment is a transformation in itself. So they have this twofold transformation. They have the transformation of working with you. Then they have the transformation of tapping deeper into their abundance. Some people feel they feel guilty charging a lot for something. So maybe somebody really is dying, and then they're going to charge a lot for that person to be able to help that person. But there's this whole transformation that happens with a person when they invest in themselves in a way that's really moving them forward. Not just the things that the typical things that people invest in that is actually hurting them more than helping, but when you actually invest in yourself in a way that moves you forward, and especially using these miraculous modalities that are out there, then it's
And
I
that's what
can't
you're
even.
really selling is you're selling
Yeah,
the transformation. In fact, you're
exactly.
not even selling. You're like, I always say it's inspiring. Like I
Yeah.
teach people I inspire people to enroll. I don't really teach people how to sell or close deals, although I'm called a closer, and I close
Right.
deals. Like a lot of times on these high end programs, like people bring me in, I'm like the hired gun, so to speak, to close the deal. But all I'm really doing is I'm inspiring people to really step out of their comfort zone. And that's
hmm
all you need to do. And that's what I'm doing with you guys is I want you to step out of your comfort zone and, do something different, because here's the thing is if you continue to do the things that you're doing, you're going to continue to get the same results. And you can only do 2 things in life. Only 2 things. You can
hmm
do what you've been doing, or you can do something different. And that's it. Those are the only 2 things you can
Right.
do. And if you do something different, it's a little scary, right? So in fact, that's how I actually got to doing the things that I'm doing is it's like the 80-20 rule or the 90-10 rule. 80 to 90% of the time, yeah, it's going to be the same, and you're going to do things over and over. There's going to be some repetition and stuff. But that 10 to 20% of the time, you want to step away from the routine and do something completely backward, do something completely goofy, completely off the wall, say something you would normally never say, do something you normally would never do. Just try it. Just if you're normally charging, $100 an hour, just tell somebody your package for 90 days is $10,000.
hmm
What do you have to lose? What do you have to lose? They could say, okay, let's do it. And you just made a client for 10 grand. And then guess what?
Right.
Now the cost of inaction is like all those people that you're charging $100 for that could have potentially paid you 10 grand. That's the cost of the inaction. And now you want to sell high ticket, but you're scared to. Well, do it. Get out of your comfort zone. Like, that's what you got to do, is do something different. And it's uncomfortable to do something different. Like, have you ever seen that thing that Steve Harvey did, Jump? If not, go to YouTube and just type in Steve Harvey Jump. It's a 5-minute thing. He's in front of the audience of, and he's like, oh, most people, they walk up to the edge and turn around. It's fear. In fact, I have this like circle exercise, and I'll show it to you here. It's the same thing. And it's like, so we have this circle. I don't know if you can see that, but we have this circle, and then there's a line here. And then we usually start at the top here and everything's good. And then we move down, and then down at the bottom, everything's bad. But then we come back and we're like, okay, now I'm bouncing back and things seem to be going well again. And it could be with anything. It could be with food. It could be with drugs. It could be with money. It could be with relationships. And you go, you know what? I feel much better. I shouldn't eat that food, but I'm going to do it again. Now I feel much better. Now things are good, but then we slip. I shouldn't do that drug, but you know what? It makes me feel better. I'm going to do it again. And you know what this line is right here? This is fear. And that's the thing, is until we get up to here, this is the fear. And most people turn away and they go in this loop and they go, why is this always happening to me? And we just stay in the loop, in the loop. And like I said, like, we can have this conversation in 12 months. You can do the things that you want to do, and you can continue doing it your way. And then you can come back, and then we can have this conversation in 12 months, but you're going to be like, why is this always happening? But then you get to this point and you go, I'm going to do something different, and it's uncomfortable. And we come over here to this new level, and we're out of that loop. And this is our comfort zone. And we step out of the comfort zone. There's nothing here. It's new. You have to create something new. So you're creating your new patterns. We're getting out of those patterns, and we're getting something new. And that's what Steve Harvey was saying. Sometimes you just got to jump. And you might get hurt on the way down. You might skin your knees. You might, fall and hurt yourself. But you got to get back up and just go for it. You got to do something different. Everybody else that you see soaring past you, they're jumping. And you're like, oh, well, why are they at that level? How are they able to do that? I get holistic people all the time coming to me going, how do you sell $100,000 packages? Well, the first thing you got to do is you got to have a $100,000 package, and you got to offer it. Like, that's the first thing. Well, I don't know what that looks like. Well, great. That's why you hire me.
That's awesome. You know what I love about the fear in getting out of your comfort zone that you just talked about is, well, in my experience, the bigger the risk I take, the more, I guess, because of my standards, what was that?
The bigger the reward.
Yes. And there's this magical thing that happens when you take a risk and you tap into the trust. I mean, if your identity is somebody who, you take a risk and you fall and you're just devastated, you never get back up, then you might have a problem. But if your identity,
that's from the inside.
Right. But if you have higher standards than that, which most people do, then, you're going to take that jump, and then all of a sudden you have this threshold. As long as your threshold is not like death and, it's not like homelessness for long periods of time.
I asked that. What's the worst case scenario? What's the worst thing that can happen by you asking someone to invest $10,000? Are you going to die?
Right. No. Yeah. No, you're not.
No. Well, guess what? You're already at a no. So but what do you have to lose?
You tap into this magic, this like higher level support that you never knew was there in the first place. I mean, you knew it was there, but not to the extent that you tap into when you take that risk, and when you it's like you discover this new level of trust and this new level of universal support that's out there.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, like your example earlier about your first time investing in a $10,000 program, the funny thing is that most of the time, I'd probably say 95% of the time, the people that actually do invest into those things that don't have the money, the universe opens up for them because they are doing something different. And like, they'll get a client that like covers that. Like, I haven't had it, even me all the time. Like, I invested into a $12,000 program and I got a $12,000 client.
So you know what happened with this, with that particular sale is it was a second investment really in my life. So my first investment was $1,000, and then like 6 months later it was $10,000. So it was a big jump for me, comfort wise. And I told myself, I'm only going to invest in this if I commit to getting the money back before the event.
Mm.
And so I made that commitment to myself, and I ended up doubling the investment before the event. So I made 20,000 back instead
And
of
that's
the
a key
10.
right there. Like you just hit a key right there. Commitment. Like when you actually commit to doing something, that's why I was saying earlier, get out of your head and into your heart, because it's kind of like the New Year's resolution. It's usually in the head and like it fizzles out. But if you have your heart set on it, that's why I always say, like, don't worry about your mindset, worry about your heart set. Because when your heart is set on it, it's written on your heart, you're going to do it. And then when you commit at that level, then, you know, like all the blocks seem to go away. And then, you know, you have these unseen forces that are helping you out, and they provide the things that you need at the time that you need it. Like going back to, like, I was going to say something earlier, it's like a lot of times when people don't have the investment, and I go ahead and think about it. And here's the thing is, if you really want this to happen, the money will find you, right? And that's the unseen forces, right? Like if this is really something that you really desire and that you have the intention to do, and, you know, it's really for your best interest and for your higher good, the money will be there. I mean, I've had people 5 minutes later call me back and say, oh, I just realized I had a line of credit that I didn't even remember. I had this credit card that I had, you know, in the drawer that I forgot about. Or, you know, worst case scenario is sometimes you have to go ask somebody. I've had somebody, I said, you know, is there anybody that you can ask? Like, if you really want this, like, you don't have the money, like, is there anybody you can ask? And they're like, well, I asked my dad like 4 times. I was like, so what is it going to hurt if you just ask another time? He's already said no 4 times. It's just going to hurt your ego a little bit. But if you ask, and she came back and she was like, you know what? He said, if you've asked me 4 times and this is the 5th time, and if it's really this important to you, like, I'll help you out.
Yeah.
You know?
That's awesome.
But you don't want to scam people, right? Like, you know, if you know you can help these people, you're not pressuring them. You're just giving them options. And a lot of times too, this is the thing too, is a lot of times people, they need that help because they're conditioned to say no. They're conditioned to say it's too much money. So, you know, sometimes you have to give yourself permission, but you as the, you know, person that's selling to them. And that's the thing too, is you're a salesperson before you're a holistic practitioner. If you want clients, you got to sell them and inspire them and close them, enroll them first. So regardless of what you can do to help people, you ain't helping people unless you can enroll them.
Exactly.
And the more they pay, the more committed they are. So, but you have to be sure of it too. So that's why I always teach people, go in the mirror and practice. It's only $10,000. It's only $10,000. Say it over and over and over, and then pause. It's only $10,000. It's only $10,000. Are you in? So what do you think? Are you in? How does that sound to you? Are you ready to do this? It's just that simple. Or, you know, and so I have things in my sales process that I do where I call it the Torah steps, TORRA. So you have you know, everybody can do the, you know, hey, so tell me a little bit about you, tell me your problems, and like, what are your goals, right? But then the transition, that's the T, transition to the offer, which is the O. So you have to have a transition, you know, and you say, so, hey, if I could help you with this stuff, would that be valuable to you, right? And they'd be like, yeah, great. So, you know, would you like to hear about my options, right? Or my package or whatever. So that's the offer, right? So now you got transition to the offer. Now you have the offer. Well, hey, we got package 1. It's $10,000 a month or $100,000. What? That's crazy. Okay, well, I got another option for you. It's 30 grand or 2,500 a month. Well, that's crazy. All right, well, you can do, you know, $10,000, and you know, if you want to, you make payments on it, you know, you can do that. So I recommend you take this option. That's what the R is. I recommend that you take this option because, and here's the reason why. That's the second R, TORRA. So recommendation and reason why. Everybody wants to know a reason why. Well, hey, you said this in the, like, you went through our, you know, webinar video. You filled out the form. You just sat down with me, told me all your problems that you don't want anymore. So this is why I recommend this. I can help you get past this. And then the A is ask for the sale. So are you in? You know, I recommend that you do this. What do you think? And then you can put it back on them. So, I'm going to give you a secret. Like, this is one of the biggest secrets that I do. So you never have to ever ask people for the money. So you just say, so here's the reason why I'm doing this is I'm looking for my next success story. So my next success story is people that are, committed to doing this. They're action takers. They're tired of the results that they've been getting, and they want to make a change and a transformation in their business and in their life now. So are you ready to become my next success story?
I love that.
It's only $10,000. Are you in?
That's awesome.
But that comes from inside, right? That's your energetics of sales, right? That comes from the feeling inside, right? So you have these fears, and if you have fear, you project that out. And if you don't have the fear, but here's the other thing about fear and excitement are the same thing. So if you've ever spoken on stage, this is one of the biggest things people get fear about. If people are like, oh my God, I'm so scared. I'm go, well, just switch it. Just say, I'm excited. And it's the same emotion.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's all in your brain. Like your brain is the thing that causes all the crap. So get out of your head, right? If that's why meditation's great. If you can get out of your head and into your heart, then that's where emotion is. And the emotion's the same, fear versus excitement,
And what's so interesting about, what's so interesting about fear and excitement is there's the same emotion, but excitement is like movement and fear is like stop.
Yeah, exactly.
So I can just imagine on stage, I've never done this, but I'm going to do it next time. I feel nervous on stage or something, is just change the wording to excitement. And all of a sudden you start moving again and you start.
Yeah. And here's another thing that just triggered something that you said. Our brain, the way our brain works, it takes words and it interprets them into pictures.
Yeah.
So when we have the thought of fear, we picture things that are fearful, right? Mm-hmm. So like if I might say like, have you ever tried to go up on stage and speak? Now the picture of that comes in, but this is how easy it is. Like if I say, picture your front door, you can see that, right? Mm-hmm. Or if I say, picture your car, or picture like Apple, like what are you thinking when I say Apple?
I think of the computers.
Exactly, but you could be a regular apple.
Right. If you said an apple, I would have thought of an apple.
But that's my point, right? So our brain fills in the gaps, right? Like so, and those are things too that it goes back into emotion. It goes back into how we say things. It goes into what we say. It goes into how we say things to ourselves as well. Mm-hmm. So that's important too, is like what we say is very important, but how we say it is even important. I'll give you a little example. I teach this in my private coaching. So I didn't say she stole the ring. 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 So the words didn't change, but how I said them did. And that changes how you interpret it. So picture you're in a relationship and you're having an argument with somebody and then you're like, I've said everything. And they're like, I'm hearing you, but I'm not understanding what you're saying. You could be emphasizing the wrong words, right? Mm-hmm. And then you can be talking back and forth and no one's getting. Same thing in sales conversation. You can be like saying something and your, perception of it this way and they're perceiving it the other way. And they're like, how can you not understand this, right? Like I'm giving you all. And that's the other thing too, is a lot of times in the sales presentation, people talk themselves out of the sale.
Right.
They ask for the sale. Hey, it's only $10,000 and you want to be quiet. But then they go, well, and they start talking, well, you get this and you can do that. And then the person's like, I've sat before for like 7 minutes before, like, it's only $10,000. Are you in? Can you feel the tension?
Yeah.
I don't want to go for 7 minutes, but that's my point is like silence can be deadly, but it could also
makes somebody really think. It's like it makes somebody question themselves or not question themselves, but question what maybe they just said previous to the silence.
Well, that's them having that conversation between their head and their heart. It's allowing them. It's like, this is what I call holding the space. And this is what holistic people, do in their practice, but in the sales process, they don't.
Right.
So when you're holding that space for somebody, you can be very authentic and, you know, just, hey, I'm here for you. Slow down. You know, I'm here. Let's have a conversation about it. Like, what does that mean to you? Like, what does this mean to your family? Like, what would this mean, you know, if you were to succeed? Like, what would that mean?
Yeah. Love it. What do you feel like, what's the last thing that you want to say to people who want to experience some kind of a transformation around sales that would end up being something energetic, and they want to be able to step into like working at a higher level, working with higher level clients and selling higher level, you know, showing up at a higher level with higher level packages and stuff like that?
So a lot of times, so success comes from within. Like, that's one thing I always say is success comes from within. Like, if you're not feeling successful on the inside, then it's going to be very hard for you to experience success on the outside, because we project our, you know, what we see on the outside. We're like, look around you right now, like all the stuff that you have in your office or your home or wherever you're at right now, that's what you're projecting out. So if you're driving in a Rolls Royce versus a beat up Honda, that's your projection, and that comes from within. So you got to raise the standards, right? You got to have a mental image. So your self-image is very key, and how you see yourself is how you're going to show up. And you can't be anything more than your self-image. This is the same thing as like people win the lottery, right? Like they live in a certain way, they win the lottery, and then a year or two later, they're broke. I mean, football players do this all the time, right? They make millions of dollars, and then 5 years later, they're broke, you know? So your mental image is very key, and that's why success comes from within. So you really have to, you know, change that standard. You really have, this is why writing down, like Joe Dispenza always says, create your day. So I always wake up in the middle, you know, in the morning, and I create my day. This is what I want to experience. This is the money that I want to bring in. These are the clients that I want to help. These are the people that can help me, or, you know, thank you for bringing the people that can help me. Thank you for bringing the people that I can help. And I want to experience, you know, happiness and joy, and I want to be healthy, and I want to feel young and vibrant, and I want to meet cool people like you, and, you know, like how we met, right? Like it was just, you know, these things happen all the time. It's just, it seems like it's coincidence, but there is no coincidence. We're creating this stuff. And so if we're going around and we're like, oh, my life sucks, and, you know, this is happening, and, you know, woe is me, well, you're going to experience more of that. Your universe is going to send you more of that stuff. But, you know, and that's why it's important to write it down. This is my manifestation steps. Success comes from within. So write down, like at the top of a piece of paper, right? Get a piece of paper and a pen. And at the very top of it, you write down what I intend to experience with, and you could, and I've done this with my perfect car, my perfect client, my perfect house. I mean, literally, you can write this stuff out. And like Ted McGrath and Deepak Chopra and Sharon Lecter, like I literally manifested these people. I wrote down, I was like, all right, I'm ready for a new client. You know, like I would love to work for these, you know, someone selling $100,000 packages and, you know, fly me all over the world. Like I put that down. I was like, I want to work with people that have $100,000 packages that have events that will pay all my expenses and fly me around the world. And it happened. Like literally a week later, I get a message that's like, hey, we're looking for this. And I like instantly knew, like, this is the next guy I'm going to go sell for. So that was years ago, but your self-image. So success comes from within, and how you see yourself is how you're going to show up in the world and how you're going to present yourself. So raise that level, raise that standard. You have the ability to do that. You're the creator, not the creation. You're the painter, not the painting. Like you can change things just with your thought. And your thoughts change your feelings, and your feelings and your thoughts and change the things that you say, and those things change your beliefs. And your beliefs are what? They're just those things that you think and say over and over and over again. So if we have all this information coming in at us at all the time, and we're the ones controlling it and creating it, we have the power. So that's why writing this down is so powerful. It's like my manifestation steps. I teach this stuff as well. Write it out, and then in the morning you read that list. And then in the afternoon, you read it, because then our brain starts thinking about, oh, I got to do this. And this person cut me off. And that son of a gun. But no, I'm going to go back and, oh, yeah, I'm going to read this. And I'm going to feel healthy and I'm going to feel joyful. I'm going to attract these type of people. And then before you go to bed, so our brain, it really, before we go to bed, it processes all the stuff throughout the day, but it also processes the stuff that we've done right before we go to bed.
Right.
So that's why it's important to do it before you go to bed so that your brain can process all that stuff. Even better is I use my headphones and I listen to stuff while I sleep. I listen to,
yeah, I do the same thing.
Beats, and when you wake up, you read that again. You start your day off, and like Joe Dispenza says, that you get to create your day. You get to block off a little bit of time, and that time's for you. No dogs, no kids, no nothing. Just give me 20, 30 minutes to do this stuff on my own. Meditate and create your day. And how do you create your day? Well, you wrote it out already. So just read what you want, and you can update that anytime and do crazy things. Like I intend to attract $100,000 clients. I intend to have these people pay me $100,000 in full, right? Like do things that you would normally never do. And the funny thing is like 70% of the people that I've sold $100,000, $200,000 packages for paid in full.
Yeah.
Paid in full. Awesome. So do crazy things like that. Put stuff out there like, this is what I want to experience. This is the lifestyle. Like, don't think you want to be a millionaire. Don't think you want to be a multi-millionaire. Think you want to be a multi-billionaire. Because look, money creates choices. And the more money you have, the more options and more choices you have. So go big. Like, why would you go small? Like, I'm here to challenge you, right? Like, step up, get out of your comfort zone and go big. Let's do it.
You know what, we'll wrap it up here in just a second, but one of my favorite examples of that, like what you said, like, put the intention of becoming a multi-billion-dollar billionaire. If you look at the past year, could you ever, January 2019, would you ever have imagined yourself doing what you're doing today? It's probably bigger than you ever even imagined, even thinking big back then. So no matter how big you can possibly think, you're going to be doing stuff even bigger than that.
And if you're not at that level, that's the beauty of it. Like if you're not, like maybe you lost a job or lost a client, then cool, you got more time to go think about it. Go think about what you want, go meditate on it. Instead of, people say, oh, I don't have the time to, I can't meditate for 5 minutes. Well, do it more often. Like just sit down.
And it creates more time when you do that.
Yeah. And your brain actually is like, that's the thing is most people think, oh, well, I have to focus on this. I go, no, you're actually better off looking out the window for an hour and not trying to figure it out, because that's where it is. It's up in your head. And this is what blocks you. You got to get into your heart. So get out of your head and spend the time. Like the more time you can get out of the day-to-day routine stuff and just be like a human being, right? You're just being with no thinking. That's it. You're much better just to sit down and just think about nothing. Just let your brain go.
So you had mentioned recording stuff and listening to it while you sleep. I do the same thing. And something that has been really helpful is to put music behind the words. And so music is like activates the heart, right? And the words activate the mind. So when you put the music,
528 hertz is the frequency of the heart. So like I like to go to YouTube and you can do binaural beats and there's different things, but 528 hertz, if you actually play that like in your background or, on your phone or your computer or whatever, 528 hertz will calm you. And and so I use that all the time, 528 hertz.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And that can help you to connect the mental, with the heart as well.
Yeah. And if you use with the two, it kind of balances the left and the right brain, which is another cool thing too, is like our body is divided in the left side is feminine, the right side's masculine, our brain's backwards. The left side is masculine and right side's feminine. So those are masculine and feminine energies as well. Holistic people, you can tap into these things as well, right? So you can tap into the masculine and feminine energies. So I can do a whole topic on that stuff. 528 hertz is really awesome to balance both sides of your brain and get you into a new state of being.
Awesome. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much, Preston, for this incredible conversation of all kinds of things that I think are going to be, this is one of those things I think people are going to be listening when they're at a pivotal moment a moment of really shifting into a new experience. So thank you so much
We'll
for
find them at the right time.
Exactly. So,
Yeah.
you've been here at exactly the right time for people. So thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you, Sarah, for having me. Appreciate it.
All right. We'll talk soon. Thank you everybody for watching and listening, and we'll see you next time.